Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning blog. My name is Melissa Galasso and I'm very excited to be here to talk to you about proposed changes to segment reporting. Now I know this is a niche topic that only impacts public companies, so you may not work with public companies or work at a public company, but it's good to know what's going on in the profession. So this proposed ASU is going to address topic 280, which is segment reporting. And this is based on stakeholder feedback. So just like any other set of standards, this went through post-implementation review. And there were some sticking points that mostly investors and users felt were missing from segment reporting. So this was issued on October 6, 2022, and comments are due December 20th of 2022. So this is a very niche proposal. It obviously impacts segment reporting or disclosures, and it would require a public company, again, not going to impact private companies, to disclose on an annual and interim basis the significant segment expenses that are regularly provided to the chief operating decision maker and included with each reported measure of segment profit or loss. This is very interesting because there is currently a project that the FASB is looking into based on the invitation to comment around segment or around expense information and disaggregation of the P&L. Now that is a project that would impact private companies as well as public companies, but this is specific to segment reporting. So for that is going to be included in the measure of profit or loss that's provided to the chief operating decision maker, which is how we decide segment reporting rules. This would require us to give a little bit more breakdown of them. In addition, it would require those public entities to disclose on an interim and annual basis an amount for the other segment items by reportable segment and description of its composition. So basically, when you go to this significant expense principle, what happens is there is a reconciling item. So it gives you that information. And then it requires them to provide all annual disclosures that are currently required in interim. So expanding segment reporting to interim. Right now, there's only a handful of interim reporting requirements. Only a portion of those disclosures are required in interim. This would require that anything required in the annual would also be required in the interim. And probably one of the more interesting changes and somewhat of the more controversial, this was not a clean vote, it did have two dissenting opinions from board members, clarifies that if the CODM does use more than one measure of profit or loss, then that should be the measure that is most consistent with the measurement principles used in measuring the corresponding amounts of the financial statement. So basically, if you're going to have this, at least one of them has to be GAAP, but you could use non-GAAP measures in your reporting. Now, if you only use a single measure, then obviously it has to tie to the reporting used in the financial statements, but it does give a little bit more permission around those non-GAAP items. And then last, but probably not least, this is probably where we see the most impact, is that there are a lot of entities, Target is one of them, oddly enough, that says, I only have one segment. I sell in a store, whether it's online or in the store. They don't consider that to be different segments. And so as a result, they have a single segment presentation, so they don't do a lot in the segment disclosures because they only have one segment. And this is saying, you would be required, if you are a public company and you have a single segment, you would still have to provide all the disclosures required in this proposal and the existing ones in topic 280, including all those interim disclosures. So kind of interesting to force them into the segment disclosures, even though they only have one segment. All right, so that's a wrap. Again, I knew this was going to be short and sweet. I am joining you, obviously, not from my office, but from the AICPA council meeting this week in Chicago. And so wanted to make sure I kept you up to date, even though I am out of town. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope to see you on a future vlog. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.